Welcome back to the channel, everybody. Today we're talking about how to throw the Haymaker. First of all, what is it? Is it a good idea to throw it? What are the downfalls to it? There's so many things to talk about, and this video is by request. So let's roll the intro and jump into this very interesting punch. So the Haymaker, it's something that you hear about all the time in fight sports, but not everybody actually knows what it is or how to execute it, or even if you should be throwing it. It's just not something that's taught at gyms all the time, but there is a time and a place to execute. And we're gonna break that all down today. But first, I wanna take a moment and thank the sponsor of this episode, XMartial. These guys have been hooking me up with so much fantastic gear. I can't wait to get into my training camp, news coming soon, and be able to rock some of this throughout my training sessions. I'm gonna throw a link in the description below. You can go check out their website, look at all this amazing apparel they have, plus gloves, shin pads, bags for your gear. The list just goes on, and use that promo code Gabriel Varga for a 10% discount. Now back to talking about the Haymaker. First of all, what is a Haymaker? If you're gonna break it down in definition, because we have uppercuts, we have hooks, we have straight punches, we have overhands. What's a Haymaker? Well, a Haymaker is basically one full power punch that is designed to knock somebody out, and more often than not, technique is not perfect on this. It's engaging your whole body into the shot, and there's usually not a good follow-up. It's not combo style where we can even rip an overhand and come to a body shot. It's kind of whew, and we're ripping right through with every little bit of force we can muster. Now, in my opinion, you cannot throw a Haymaker straight down the middle. It just doesn't work. They're usually overhand style, hook style, or they could even be uppercut style. And we're making sure that either front or back arm, we're engaging the entire body and we're following through on the punch. Who are some people that we have seen execute punches like this throughout the years? I mean, there's so many, but off the top of my head, people like Deontay Wilder. Most of the heavyweight fighters in the world will also execute these all the time because they know whatever extra power comes from the Haymaker, maybe 20, 25%, that's an estimate on my part, that extra power is enough to put somebody clean out. So first we'll talk about how we can best execute the Haymaker, footwork that might be involved in it, and then we'll talk about the downsides of it and how to protect ourselves in the best way possible. And then, should you even be throwing this shot? That'll be the last thing that we talk about today. So first off, technically, when we're throwing this, if normally when I throw, let's say, a hook, I'd go to about there with my shoulders. That's sort of the rotation. If I'm facing towards you, I'm starting about here, and my body rotates about yay far. That gives me a decent amount of distance I can follow through this target. But on a Haymaker, I'm probably gonna whip through to about here. I'm doing a full rotation so I can maximize that follow through power. Now, my feet. I'm going to have to disconnect this heel off the back foot, and if I go the opposite direction, off the lead foot, so my feet are not stuck to the ground and I'm limited or impaired in my movement. I disconnect or I disconnect. That's gonna give me so much more power through that bottom half of my body. And the punch is not going to hit the target and pull out, as we often do when we hit pads, crack, pull, uppercut, hit, pull. We're going right through the target and we're rounding back to our head. Again, there are downsides to this, but there are some positives in the power that we can generate. Now, the footwork that we need to utilize, aside from the twists, is how do we get from here to here? How do we cover that distance effectively? Because let's be honest, this is not a punch that comes out of nowhere. It's not like when I'm moving around and I snap out a jab and hit somebody and they're like, whoa, where did that come from? This punch is a little more rounded, and to close the distance, we're gonna need a little bit of footwork. So if I'm coming off my back arm, I'll probably step once with my front foot and hit hard. If I'm coming off my lead arm for some reason, I'm probably going to roll under and do a double foot spring in. kind of the way that we'll see Tyson throw that gazelle punch. Either way, the lower portion of the body, those legs, have to be engaged. I generally don't want to just stand here and just throw, especially if I'm thinking aggressively. If I'm being defensive and somebody's coming to me and I'm just dropping my weight and whipping through as a counter punch, then I'll plant. Now, a couple things to keep in mind about a haymaker that most beginners, let's say, do wrong is they will pull the hand way back to get the haymaker happening. So if I'm standing here and I'm going to hit, instead of loading the body and unwinding and keeping everything a little tighter, they'll pull and aim right through. This is why very often people don't teach this at the gym. It's one of those techniques that is very sloppy. It's one of those techniques that you don't really need to know how to do because everybody does it and many people do it incorrectly. But if you can dial it in, it is absolutely an effective punch. An additional downside to this punch is you're not generally stringing together multiple haymakers because it's so much slower. If you see me throw, let's say, hook, hook, uppercut, and I'm going nice and clean, everything's crisp, it's fast, and I don't have to worry about downtime between punches. If I was to execute that same combo, hook, hook, uppercut, haymaker style, I'm coming 1, 2, 3. And it's just so slow, unless you have an opponent in front of you who's damaged, injured, and they're just shelled up. And you're just ripping away, trying to finish. And we do see some high-level boxers who do these style of punches even when they're fighting for world titles. But the key is not to get too beginner in the movement and draw your arm back and do things like lift your chin. You can still stay technical with haymakers. Keep your chin tucked. Don't draw your arm away from your head. And then once you hit, don't let your hand swing down and stay low for too long. Use your shoulder to protect your head and then draw the hand back as quick as possible. And really look at it this way. When we first come into a gym, we learn probably the jab first. Crisp and fast. And we're trying to get it right from the head, right out to the target, straight back. As we get more advanced, there are certain rules we can start breaking to utilize this jab in not the perfect way you initially learn. The haymaker is almost the opposite. We're taking a punch which everybody can throw and we're refining it and making it better and better to the point where it can be effective. But we're always aware and always keeping in mind that we are compromised when we throw these shots. In addition, and this is a big point for anybody who wants to fight, anybody who's going to be in the ring, you have to remember that yes, haymakers can finish a fight. They are very effective. But you throw too many of them and you don't finish the fight, now you're gassed. They take so much energy. It is so much harder to throw 10 of these as it is 10 crisp, short little shots. And the chance of landing a haymaker is usually much less because most people who are very good are going to see it coming and they're not going to stand there and shell up. They're going to block it, or they're going to step, or they're going to roll it. There's a reason why we don't see a whole lot of pro fighters throwing these when they are fresh in the fight. Haymakers usually come out when people get desperate, they're tired, but we do have some fighters in the world, like Deontay Wilder, who can throw a couple jabs. He can throw a couple jabs and then he just bombs in a big shot and it works for him and he puts people out. So don't write the haymaker off just yet. Remember, most coaches will tell you, no, we don't throw haymakers here. But there's a time and a place for certain people to utilize this in fights, and to disregard it entirely is very foolish in my opinion. I am not somebody who throws haymakers, but I have a very crisp technical style, and me throwing them just doesn't make sense for the overall way I fight. But if you're somebody who is naturally a little shorter than me, you're very wide, you're very thick, you're very strong, and you have enormous power when you throw, and you can figure out a way to set things up, like maybe you jab a couple times, maybe you're moving, you're making life really difficult, and then instead of just throwing a crisp overhand, you actually just bomb in 100% power, and you know if you land it, the fight is done. It's ended just like that. That's basically the full tutorial of haymakers. without me going crazy in depth and talking about this for half an hour, which honestly with any technique, I could probably give you guys a half hour to 60-minute tutorial, but I'd have a bag, I'd have my gloves on, I'd be showing you certain things. This is all I need for you today. If you enjoyed this episode on Haymakers, please be sure to give the video a like. If you have your own request for a video, drop it down below. I have a massive list from so many people. So people say, Gabriel, you're gonna run out of content because you're posting every day. And I go, the list of requests I have is growing faster than I can put out videos, but still, please drop your comment below. Let me know what you want to see on this channel and I will get to it at some point. Guys, as always, train hard. I will see you back here soon for another video.